Hello and welcome to the penultimate round of Virtual Touring Masters Classic. Hello and welcome, as I say, to this penultimate round of the Virtual Touring Masters Classic. I'm Ryan Callender. Today I'm joined by Mr. Scott Woolby. Scott has been away from TPS for a while, doing plenty of real live commentary as his career begins to kick-start. Hello, Scott. Are you pleased to be back?
Oh, you're too kind, Mr. Callan. Yes, very pleased. Hello, everybody. Good to be back once again. Couldn't really turn down some sim racing commentary on a Wednesday evening of sorts. So, and what a series to come to. It's the Virtual Touring Masters Classic, Group A touring cars at its finest. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, with what I've heard of the story so far, unfortunately, I've been a bit of a bad boy and haven't really followed most of the season, if not any of it so far, so sorry about that. But even so, it sounds like it's been quite a battle between the two guys at the top of the table, and it's only going to electrify even further with the fact of the unique location that we are tonight, and of course the fact that it's a unique setting, the fact that it's Wednesday night lights. We're going night racing.
We are going night racing. It's Trois-Rivieres, which means streets, which means walls, which means narrow archways, that turn 3 archway, which everybody dreads on that opening lap. And it's at night for even more of a challenge. And it's 63 laps, Scott. 63 laps around this circuit is going to be a real test of concentration.
It is, and this circuit, of course, 1.53 miles in length or 2.46 kilometres, 10 turns. It's a circuit that's hosted plenty of racing series, including the American Le Mans Series, the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, Trans Am, Can Am, Indy Lights, and Formula Atlantic. It has also the Grand Prix also been headlined, also had the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series, and also this year it's been part of the FIA World Rallycross Championship as a venue here as well. So plenty of series of race here, of course. Now it's as have Virtual Touring Masters in the past. We're coming back here once again, and that daunting turn 3 archway, that's going to catch a lot of people, as I even seen this man Toby Davis has been caught out several times in practice at least. But even so, it's a classic battle of Ford versus Nissan, as it was back in the old Aussie touring car days of the late 80s and early 90s, and it's good to see it really guys once again, and good to see some old favourites in some old cars. Of course, Toby, his favourite number 22, Andy Routh, Ford Sierra. but Adrian Holm at Imma Nissan has certainly been his fly in the ointment in this championship. And while it's been relatively smooth sailing for Adrian Holm, it has been quite an error-strewn series for Davis, which is rather unusual because he's usually, when he's on form, he's pretty rapid and pretty consistent.
He is, but he's always been susceptible to the small mistake here and there. And Adrian has really been an absolute fight. This has been a career-defining season in the TPS for Adrian Holm. He really has been fantastic. As Davis goes second with a run of 5.963, despite being held up by Łukasz Demolena, who spins in the background as well. Davis is odds on for this pole position. He did a 5.6 in pre-practice in qualifying simulation, and nobody else got within 0.3 of that. So look out for Davis to be on pole position here if he can get himself a traffic-free lap, which is, of course, a big difficulty here, with only a 1:05 lap, as you can see, and there's 30 drivers out on that track. So it's key Davis gets this lap in, I think, because at the moment there's quite a gap up to the next person. So Davis here looking to make sure he seals his pole position, for which he is very much favourite. He's 0.021 up going into the final sector here, which is the sector where the Sierra is much better than the Nissan. These low speed corners, the torque comes in much lower down the rev range for the Sierra than the Nissan. The Nissan's very peaky in its power, and Davis feels on a quick lap because he's now hitting the wall on the inside there, and what a 5.747. He confirms his status as the favourite for the pole position here today, Scott.
He does. That's a good effort from Toby there, of course. We now look to Adrian Holm in the black and white Winfield sponsored Sierra, not the red colours that we'd normally see, but even so, still a striking looking machine nonetheless, and making his way through. Of course, it's been quite a season from what I understand for Adrian Holm. Of course, he's managed to rack up an incredible 5 victories to Toby Davis's 3, with Chris Butcher and Robert Wiesenmuller chucking in a winner piece, of course, for Ford and Nissan respectively. So it really has been a Ford versus Nissan battle, not only for the top of the championship, but just in general at the top of the field, with the likes in the championship, of course, John Monroe, Chris Butcher, Klaus Neering, Matty Orban, Robert Wiesenmuller, all those guys up there scoring some really solid point scores throughout the season. And of course, this isn't even the final round of the championship. We've still got that magnificent season finale at Bathurst in a couple of weeks, as Adrian Holm, of course, is just winding up for another quick lap as he turns his way through turn 1. As somebody spins in front. That's one of the Bastos Sierras, I think, has had a bit of a loop around. That's
Tommy Oyala, and now Tommy Oyala was the victor here last time we ran at night at Trois-Rivieres. He picked up the pieces after everybody crashed in front of him. Crooks missed his braking point early in the race. Butcher spun. Davis span Dave Allard in the pits. Davis then threw the race away with 15 laps to go and handed the win to Tommy Oyala, his one and only Touring Pro Series win. It's unlikely that's going to happen here today, tonight, but it just shows the unpredictability of this circuit. 63 laps around here is a real test of a driver's mettle, and I'm looking forward to seeing whether these drivers can stay mistake-free for the entire race. One would think, based on previous evidence this season so far, Adrian Holm would be that guy.
Absolutely, and looking at the kind of circuits which the championship has visited, I mean, looking back to the calendar, of course, looking forward, they've been to Spa, Suzuka, Vitus Park, which has been in some ways a bit of a street circuit, in some ways, if you like. Then you've got kind of Laguna Seca, Pukekohe, Salzburg Ring, and then Brands Hatch. This is the first proper, true test of a circuit. There's any real street circuit that they go to, as we see John Monroe in the wonderfully bright blue Calsonic number 12 Nissan Skyline. That's the R31 model. That was before the almighty Godzilla took over in Japan and then Australia. He fires it out of the final couple of corners and towards the line, because the inside of the circuit to get the best possible run. He gets fifth fastest time, 106.442. But yeah, it's a very tricky circuit in itself. It's very obviously tight and twisted. It's a typical typical street circuit itself. The barriers are very unforgiving, and it's really a case of, with cars as tricky to drive as these are, these guys are going to have to really earn this at any points they can get out there. And of course, whoever comes out on top is truly a fantastic driver when it comes to handling a Group A machine around some tricky streets like these here at Trois-Rivieres.
I'm surprised that Nyring and McGregor aren't a bit closer in this battle. We've seen them both do 6 flats in pre-practice. We've got Nyring on a 6.6 still at the moment. He's way off. At least McGregor's got down to a 6.2. David Jones here is 8th spot. Matt Richards has just spun out on one of his qualifying laps. This is the ideal car for this track. Scott, it has low down torque, it's light, he doesn't really do complicated corners, and you can tell that by the kind of the shape of the car, but he does do point and squirt very well, which is what this track is all about. And Dave Villar was very much the fastest driver here in season 2. Obviously, like I say, Max is having difficulties on his outlap here also, well, but straight on there, really struggling. And Michael Hellen has been improving all season. He came in midway through for his return to TPS after 3 years away and has been improving throughout. So looking forward to see how he does in the race. Anders Nielsen has just demoted his fellow Swede into that 11th spot. A lot of people spinning at that first corner as well. That's very surprising to see, Scott.
It is, but it's kind of these guys, of course, the majority of the cars, all of them are rear-wheel drive, and of course, as unsophisticated, if I'm not to use a better word, of course, as these cars are, of course, they, for their time at least, a lot of power delivery in these cars, of course, majority of them are turbocharged, if not very lightweight, and these cars were always a handful back in the day when they were running at the height of the Group A era, especially the turbocharged cars like the Sierras, of course, you always saw them on opposite lock power sliding somewhere around the world, but even so, these guys are having to really work it, especially with a tricky circuit as it is at Trois-Rivieres. You really haven't got a time to rest. You really have to have your eyes on stalks just to see exactly where you're going and just to keep it on the roads, keep it on the straight and narrow. And the fact they're also running at night, I mean, yes, there is lighting around the circuit, but even so, it doesn't check the fact that the added factor of dark racing in the dark is only going to make things even more treacherous. So it wouldn't surprise me if we're going to get quite a high attrition rate purely for the fact that these guys either lose concentration or they just can't get the car under control under braking or on the exit of the corner, because that's going to make the difference between who's got a rather light right foot and who's quite a bit of a heavy hand when it comes to getting on the gas pedal.
We're seeing Ruud Heesterbeek here really struggling, Scott. He's a star elsewhere in the sim racing world. He could put in a respectable performance at Brands Hatch, but he's really struggling here today in this qualifying section, missing lots of apexes, sliding the car into the corner on the brakes. And you see, he was right behind Butcher when Butcher started his lap, and he ends up not even improving. In fact, actually, he stays in that 16th position, 2 thousandths slower than his own time. He may not get another lap in either. The clock has now run down. It looks like Toby Davies is going to have this pole position. He's going for another run here. He's only 3 thousandths down on his own time. He's run too deep into there, though, and he won't finish that lap. As Chris Butcher's gone back to the pits as well, and Ross McGregor will not improve either, one wouldn't think, especially considering this car is not as good through this final sector, this final couple of corners as the Sierra, and Ross has not been as quick as Toby Davies this season either. So see what Ross can do here. He might pull a surprise out of the bag, but doesn't look like it. No, he's not even trying to go to the inside out of there. But so it means that Toby Davies is on pole position once again, and it's Adrian Horn right in behind. He must be absolutely sick of the sight of that. At Brands Hatch, they spent the entire race, 39 laps, absolutely glued together within a second of each other. There was 4 passes for the lead between the two. There was no mistakes made at all, even throughout all the pit stops and all the racing and the passing. It really was a fantastic sight to see. One of the best best 2 pieces of driving I think I've ever seen in sim racing. So that's the end of that qualifying session. We'll bring you the grid in just a couple of minutes here. We've got a few leagues to talk about, haven't we, Scott?
We do indeed. Of course, we've got a couple of fantastic ones. Of course, this is a big one which everyone's been
huge,
kind of just pining over. Of course, in fact, even so have I, because I cannot wait for it to start up, and I want to be a part of this as well. It is the big one. It is the virtual Super Tourers. Now, who doesn't love a Touring Pro Series? Who doesn't love Super Touring cars? Of course, it's one of the practically almost everyone here who races here. Of course, because we do have to, in all fairness, for the most part, a fairly young contingent in terms when it comes to races. And we all kind of grew up watching the likes of Ricard Rydell, Alain Menu, Anthony Reid, Laurent Aiello, Jason Plato, Ivan Miller, all the James Thompson, all John Cleland, all the tin top stars from the ages, battling it out as hard as possible. And the Super Tourers are going to be making a fantastic appearance here. We're going to be running it pretty much identically as a calendar. In many ways, very, very similar indeed to that of the BTCC 1998 calendar, but the exact same circuits. So, of course, going forwards, if I have to quickly bring up the... We're going to have it on my screen.
We'll have wet racing also as well coming through from these races as well. And this is the mod that's been developed by ourselves at Touring Pro Series as well, in terms of being improved and beta tested, etc., etc. So we're putting lots of effort into this, and we've got plenty of interest from all over the sim racing world for this. And I mean, just look at some of the cars that we're going to be driving here, Scott. I mean, it's going to be absolutely classic. We've got 13 different models that are going to be featured in the series.
It is, yeah, of course, fantastic variety of cars. Of course, the Formula 1 Mondeo Mark 1, the Alfa 155, the Audi A4, the front-wheel drive car from 1998, the Mark II Ford Mondeo, looks like that was a fantastic piece of machinery. The Honda Accord Generation 5, that was also a car that was very prominent. Hondas are always very quick in a straight line. Never really got on well when it was slippery and wet when it rained, but even so, they'll be fantastic to watch. The Primera, of course, when it was dominant in the era of 98 to 99 with Laurent Aiello behind the wheel. The Peugeot 406 was prominent and very competent on the continent in Germany and France. Never really showed its potential in the UK. The Renault Laguna was, of course, a championship winner in 97, and of course, as it went through, the 850, of course, not the estate version, unfortunately, but it is the Super Touring Saloon version. What a car that was to get victories, as was the 1998 championship winning Volvo S40. What a car that was, and also the legendary 1995 Vauxhall Cavalier that took John Kearns to the title, his second overall, and of course the second being next generation Cavalier, which had the likes of Cleland, Warwick, Muller, Plato, Rademacher, those kind of drivers who came through in caliber on that one. The calendar, you can see, we'll see the first race take place on the 19th of November, 2 days after my birthday, in fact. It's not too bad. That's at Donington Park. Then, of course, we head to Alton Park, then Croft, my local circuit, Snetterton, will be the first race of the 2005 there as well. Then we've got Thruxton on the 21st. Again, that's the perennial kind of circuit that everyone wants to win at. Of course, we know we have IndyCar has its Indy 500, F1 has its Monaco, of course, Sports Car has its Le Mans, Touring Pro Series. We've got Thruxton. That's the one that everyone wants to win because it's simply just because it's fast, it's flowing, it's such a fantastic circuit to race at. And whether in a Clio, a Virtual Carrera Cup Car, or even the Super Tourer, it's one that certainly excites anyone who races there. Then we go to Knock Hill, of course, which has always been there as well. Then Brands Hatch and the season finale. Where else could you end it but the home of British motorsport at Silverstone? Sign-ups open on the 6th of October, which means they'll start pretty much on next Monday, which means if you want to get involved in this, you certainly can. You certainly should do, because this is going to be a big one. Really something which is going to be very prominent. Hopefully there may be some potential support. Don't want to guarantee anything yet. There may be some potential support from the guys over at Downforce UK Radio. In talks at the moment, but possibly we could have them on board to give us some extra oomph, shall we say, in terms of promotion and a bit more presence in the sim racing world. So stay tuned for that. Sign-ups open on the 6th of October. You can head to TouringProSeries.com.
Yeah, we best run to the grid very quickly here, Scott.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Toby Davis on pole position. Alongside in the front row there is Holm with Butcher, McGregor, Visa, Mother, Monroe. Nyring, slightly disappointed from him. Yunt or Ban, he'll be pleased with that. And Richard will be disappointed with 10th being in the best car for this track also as well. On the 6th row will be Nielsen and Helen with Enderman, Gardner, De Vries and Heesbeek, two good friends. On the 8th row there, Stenbeck and Dobbing. Stenbeck has been outperformed by Nielsen quite a bit here. I'm not sure who's in 19th. They've disappeared from the 7th. Obviously, hopefully come back in. 20th is Ockerclint with 21st Lennon, 22nd Adji, 23rd Andy Bernard with Demelin, Ferreira, Matthews, Straub and Oyala, rounding out those with Tuanainen way back there in the 30th position. But we are now about to go into the race here on the formation lap. Scott, it's time for your predictions.
Oh, now you put me on the spot. Let's have a think. I think, if I'm being honest, as you probably is almost a given conclusion, I think it's either going to be between one of two men. It's going to be Davis or Adrian Holm. I think because the Sierra does have a better advantage and therefore probably the edge on lap time, as it was proven in qualifying, even though there was a plethora of Nissans up there in the top 8 or so. In fact, there was five Nissans and 3 Sierras. I think Toby has got just enough potency in that wheel of that Sierra to go to the top.
Scott, but he only just joined that grid in time. For those of you not aware, you have 30 seconds after the end of warm-up to click join the grid, and Davis, literally, it was 1 second, wasn't it? He just went, and he went to the grid, and then he was setting off from the grid. That was very close to Davis missing the grid and having to start from pit lane.
Either he was getting distracted somewhere, or he was playing mind games, thinking, well, let's just leave it as long as we can, let's see it.
That was a bit risky, as he's not in the position to take risks like that. He's many points down in the championship with his rival right behind him. That was a little bit too close to call, close for comfort in my opinion. But there you go. Davis is on that pole position anyway, so no harm done. He's looking back now at the field. Butcher might make one of his trademark starts. Holmes been very good at starts this season so far also, though. So What Davis is hoping that he makes a good start and Butcher makes a good start and Hulme does not, because then that puts Butcher ahead of Hulme, allows Davis to get on with his strategy, get on with his race, and hopefully at the end of these 63 laps we're going to have here, it means that Butcher will be ahead of Hulme, which Davis desperately needs for Hulme to have a poor race at one of these races.
He does, and he needs to take full advantage of the fact that if Adrian Hulme does slip up and make a rare mistake, he needs to make sure he keeps it on the black stuff and actually gets to the flag. We say that, you know, Toby's not really want to take risks, especially with this point of the championship. But then again, all I'll say is this is Toby Davis we're dealing with here, so nothing's ever straightforward with him. But even so, he likes to entertain at least whatever the situation, and I think he's certainly proving himself very worthy of that pole position, even though he did leave it 1 second almost too late to get onto the grid. But even so,
see how bright the lights are, making the whole road just white with all those lights shining on the circuit at the moment. We're going to go to green here in just a second. They're about to go green. We're going to watch these lights for you. Those red lights going to come on, and then they're going to go out, and we'll be away at Trois-Rivieres, and away we are, and it's a good start there from Toby Davis, and it's a poor start from Chris Butcher. Hulme now comes up into second spot. He stays there. McGregor has got ahead of Butcher, so Butcher has dropped back. That is not what Davis wanted. So Davis, Hulme, McGregor, Butcher, Monroe, Wiesenmuller, Juns and Naring a poor start to the race also, as the field now funnels through the archway for the first time. Nielsen has hit the inside of the wall, and there must be a bit of carnage there, so we can spot exactly what's happened. There is Nielsen still getting going, look. So he gets going, and where is he on the track? He's 23rd now. So let's see exactly what happened to him, because that was very unfortunate for him. We'll try and go back through and try and find where is Anders Nielsen. Try and find him, my apologies. There he is. So here's what happened. So coming into the archway, he hit the back of Orban, which delayed him, which meant that Richards hit the back of him, or maybe Enderman hit the back of him. One of the two. They're both in Volvos. It might have been Enderman, in fact, actually. And inadvertently, Nielsen spun in the middle of the pack. Everyone came through. Oh, and Adji nerfed him slightly, and Lennon held up also well. So that was a disaster on the opening lap for poor Anders Nielsen. But at the front of the race, Adrian Hulme is lost 1.2 seconds already in the opening lap to Toby Davis.
I'll tell you what, I think it's not too harsh for me to say I was kind of expecting something like that into turn 3. And it is unfortunate that we had someone drop down as much as they did. But yeah, so the great start for Toby Davis, of course, he's managed to pull away. And that's what I said, we clean out this track and said, whoa, Toby, don't be playing games like that on lap 2 of 63, my goodness. But yeah, Toby made a great start, and as he said, this Sierra is much quicker around sector 3. With a clear track in front of him, this is where Toby needs to take full advantage of that fact. And really, Matthew and Adrian Hulme is going to try and sit there and think, right, he can't afford to sit back and play a long game. He has to try and attack as much as he can. But the problem with that is that he's having to run at the pace which Davis is dictating in order to try and keep up with him. So I think it's a case of I think that, you know, Adrian Hulme will push as hard as he can. And there's a bit of side-by-side action for third place, I think, behind, I think, going on between McGregor and Butcher, I think, when there was at least on the exit. But McGregor now holding on to third place now with Butcher, Monroe and Wiesenmuller in tow. So, yeah, Davis has got to make the most of this clear track, but it's a great scrap going off the third here as this quartet makes its way towards the very treacherous turn under the archway, turns it left, and it's just incredible just how close they get to the inside of that barrier course, how it protrudes out. And you have to be very careful, of course, not to clip that, otherwise that's going to be even done fairly early, of course, and with 60 laps of racing ahead, you've got to have your wits about you to make sure you don't stuff it into the barriers that early.
And that corner there is exactly where Ben Crooks completely missed his braking marker. He brakes at the next braking marker after where he should have done, and pirouetted all the way through the drivers ahead of him. Amazingly enough, they all missed him, considering how narrow this track is and the speed that he arrived at. They all missed him. He almost hit Butcher, Dave Lard Davis, they're all in there. And Crooks had won 3 races in a row up until that point. Well, actually, no, I tell a lie. He won 3 races in a row and then got second place at Brands Hatch and came here as a really strong title contender. This is back in season 2, of which this season is a repeat. And that was really the race that made sure that Crooks did not win the championship. And one would say that he's never been the same driver since. Butcher now all over the back of Ross McGregor. He wants to get his way through. They're not going to happen at turn 3. if you're not in a position to make a clean and decisive move there at turn 3, you're not allowed to try and go for a lunge. It is against the regulations. Drivers have to use some nice judgment at that corner, because of course it's so treacherous, and that is Michelle Stenbeck, I think. They're spinning out as well, so it's not been a good start to the race for Nielsen or Stenbeck. The two drivers in the M3s, Nielsen qualified really well, and the two really good friends as well. They'll be bluing on TeamSpeak. Anders Nielsen is last but two with 2.9 and way down also as well. Stenbeck with that spin, finding himself shuffled back, and he'll be now under threat from being lapped pretty much every single lap, and that will compromise his race completely. Be miserable nights now for Stenbeck.
He would indeed. Here comes John Monroe. Sorry, I was going to say John Monroe trying to dive up the inside. Maybe he was sizing out for the few corners before, but now it's put him on the back foot. So here comes Riesenmuller chucking up the inside as he gets the line down the Beau Repairs skyline. It's Beau Repairs versus Calsonic, and John Monroe just squeezed in front, forcing Riesenmuller to tuck him behind.
It was interesting, wasn't it?
He did,
yeah. Might go for it.
What it was is, again, it's very tricky turn 3, of course. Again, you have to be very sure to move into a corner like that. And look, he's also closing up in the big Volvo. It's Matt Richards in 7th place behind. He's also starting to drag with him. David Junt in the Soper and Giudone Texas Sierra there for how much longer? As here comes Klaus Neering in the skyline, trying to make his way up the inside. And there's Kjell Stenbeck trying to get out of the way of the cars behind of Matty Orban and Kevin Enderman. He's doing well after that contact and holding 11th place. We now ride on board with Klaus Neering as he heads under brakes. Very tricky here as he's looking forward to the iconic black and red Texaco Sierra, piloted by the Swiss driver David Junt. Always a bit of contact and just about missing the inside. I think he's desperate to get past this boy, because he's tapping on the rear end of that Sierra, like Morse code, if he's trying to get past like that.
Off, just sizing up a decisive move, not of this nosing down the inside half-heartedly at every single corner. He needs to make sure he makes a strong move, otherwise he'll be stuck behind Junt for a long time here. Naring is probably quicker than Junt, as you can see. He's really closing in on pretty much every single corner, and Naring qualified ahead of him. It's been quicker in pre-practice, but had not had a good start to the race, and now he's stuck behind him. He needs to take his medicine and make sure he makes a strong pass, but otherwise making little moves like that are going to end up in one of them spinning, and that means either you go back to the back of the grid or penalty points after the race, which makes it not worth it. Oh, and Naring! Oh! Almost straight into the barrier there as well. So he's got his hands full at the moment, that's for sure.
Yes, indeed. We're now watching Matt Richards in a little bit of no man's land in 7th place. He's got a gap to the cars in front and behind. And the big Volvo, of course, that's, I can't really make out. I think that's one of the Eggenberger liveries on that car, from what I can make out. But there's some very, very smart liveries out there this weekend. As Toby Davis puts in another fastest lap of the race, pumps in a 1 minute 6.527. And we'll see exactly what the gap is now across the line. It's 2.5 seconds.
He's actually lost a little bit of time, you know. It was, sorry to interrupt, Scott, it was 3.2, I noticed, around about a lap ago. So he's had a poor lap on his 5th lap, I think, and recovered on his 6th.
As we're watching them make their way back through once again, this is Adrian Holman, the white Winfield number 2 car. Then chased down by Ross McGregor. That's in the Peter Jackson Works Sierra, that's the Season's livery car as well. Then it's the number 12 Calsonic car. I don't know the exact name of the driver who made this, but the number 12 Calsonic machine is always very iconic in Japanese racing circles. I mean, touring car and GT circles over in Japan. Then we've got the Beau Repairs skyline behind. That's been piloted by Robert Wiesenmuller, the ever rapid German, and of course been closed in by Matt Richards in that number 7 Volvo. So, and this circuit, of course, it's very much typical street circuit, as we said. Lots of open runoff areas, of course, which thankfully these guys are not using too much, of course, because they are being very sensible when scrapping amongst themselves. But the trouble is, you know, I've said it so many times, that the harder that any of these guys fight each other, the easier it's going to be for the guys around them to make a break and to close in. That's very particular on a street circuit like this, as we see Toby Davis just wind that gap back up to 3.4 seconds. So looks like it's Holmes' turn to make a mistake on that lap. So as Toby Davis has now got the gap up to almost 3.5 seconds in the Sierra, with a 1 minute 6.448 on that lap around. And it just seems to know that everyone's kind of just starting to settle down a bit more in terms of battle. And the closest battle I can see at this point we're looking at right now is between the two skylines of around Wiesenmuller. Look at this, the fact that Wiesenmuller is getting not held up, but he's having to try and fight Monroe harder than he'd like to, is just starting to bring Matt Richards into play here. So we could be seeing a 3-way scrap for what I think will be 4th position if he's careful.
He's almost within touch of this, isn't he, Matt Richards? And oh, there we go. Wiesenmuller's now got the overlap coming out of that turn, and now into the final sector he goes, into turn 5, going to make the move on the inside. I think he's a bit sick of being behind Monroe now. He's going to make a decisive move. He's not going to limp out of it. Into turn 6 he goes, still on the inside. He's got that position. So Visa Muller now is up to 5th spot, and look for him to march forward now, perhaps towards Chris Butcher, who's lost lots of ground to Ross McGregor. Chris has done plenty of practice for this race, and he's doing worse than he did at Brands Hatch. Where did he go practice? Just typical, he'll be thinking.
Maybe that's probably his strategy she employ from going forwards. Actually, just don't do any practice and try and hope for the best. I think that's always a poor strategy. But of course, sometimes you get lucky with a circuit you quite enjoy. Now, whose bumper is that? Because someone's lost their bumper somewhere in the exit of turn 3. There's someone's either front or rear bumper. It looks like a rear bumper to me. That's just laying on the exit of turn 3. So I have to try and figure out who that is. If we can see somebody without a piece of bodywork that's come detached, maybe not some tone of cord. Maybe.
What colour was it?
I want to say either red or orange.
Ooh, it could be one of Anders Nielsen's that's orange, couldn't it? He's and he's out of the race as well with a DNF. So, and Lennon, and Matthews, and Tuunainen. So it could be Tuunainen as well, because Tuunainen is also, and it's suspension damage for Tuunainen, which is means he's probably had contact with the wall somewhere, and he's in a red Volvo. So we'll see if it reappears, this piece of bodywork, as we go back around the circuit. The beauty of this track is that it is 63, but the lap is over in a minute. And anything we miss, we get to see again in just a minute's time.
So I have a feeling because Tuunainen's been out for a couple of laps now. I think Anders Nielsen's only just retired, so because it wasn't I think an orange bumper, I have a feeling it belongs to Mr. Nielsen's Jägermeister BMW. I think it has either disappeared.
Marshall has decided to pick that up and take that home.
He's got himself a very tasty souvenir there to take home. Either that he'll keep it or sell it on eBay, one of the two.
Yeah, look out for that. don't bid in it, guys. It's fraud. So Chris Butcher was saying he's doing worse. However, we always quickly talk about strategy, Scott. We talked about it between ourselves, I think, briefly. We never talked about it with the viewers. Toby Davis is on a 2-stop medium tyre strategy, apparently, according to the information that I have. And considering I live in the same house as him right now, it's pretty good information. And so I think Adrian Holmes is probably on a hard tyre 1-stop strategy. Now it takes 12 seconds to make a pit stop, so basically you need to have the medium tyres be faster by 12 seconds over the race by doing shorter stints, of course. They do wear faster, but they have more grip, which makes complete sense, I'm sure, to everybody. There's also another tyre compound called a soft tyre, but they are very much qualifying only. They do not last any number of laps at all in the race. What I'm wondering is Chris Butcher on a hard tyre strategy, 1-stop here, and I wonder, is Ross McGregor on a medium tyre strategy, because he is keeping well ahead of Chris Butcher here at the moment, although Ross has been very quick in the pre-practice in the live timing in the server, which you can see, by the way, by going to TouringProSeries.com/live timing, all one word, live timing, and that gives you a nice overview of what's happening in the race, because we can't, of course, see everything all at once in the broadcast. But I'm just wondering if Ross is on a medium tyre strategy here. What's your thoughts on that, Scott?
I'm not.
Because he's comfortably ahead of Chris, isn't he?
It's quite tough to call, because looking at the lap times, they are incredibly similar. In fact, they're almost identical in lap time. So it's a tough one. I think possibly because looking at the sectors. I mean, on the previous lap at least, I'm looking at on sector between. I mean, McGregor was about half a tenth slower than Butcher, but in the second sector, McGregor had the edge by about 0.4 of a second. So I'm not sure how much of a difference that the softer medium compound tyres is going, medium to hard compound tyres is going to make, especially on sector 2, because it looks to be predominantly pretty much for straight line. So because it's long straights, that could be possibly one of the predominant reasons. I'm not entirely sure. As Tommy Ayala is unfortunately out of the race with suspension damage himself, another victim of the Canadian walls here at Trois-Rivières. But obviously Toby Davis is making the most of the fact that he's on the more, if I'm right, it's in the more durable tyre, but he's using the fact that he's much stronger in sector 3 to his full advantage. So this is a very strong drive we can see from Toby, of course, and it seems to be, for the first time in a while, with all due respect, quite a consistent one, because he has been quite error-prone this season, from what I understand. But it seems to be a race where he seems to just string it all together at this early stage of the race, at least. He's now going up to lap 13, which is coming to almost about a fifth of the way through the race. And it's been relatively error-free, but again, I don't want to curse at this point in time, because you know what us commentators
The more
are
you keep saying that, the more he's going to end up making a mistake. You know that. That's mean, Scott. It's very mean. You realise you're such a mean person.
You can go and tell him yourself then, because you live in the same house.
I can't do that, he'll crash, because I'll open the door. That's the worst thing I could possibly do. He does have damage, look at that, on the right side of the car.
Yeah, he does.
He lost that second of time, I reckon he clipped a wall somewhere, probably here or at turn 3. This is the big braking zone, and the wall there is quite close. You can see the big black marks on the side of the on the wall there as everyone's clipped that. As Tim Stroud is now getting out of the way. Only one. He's not actually getting away, but he will be in just a couple of laps here. But Toby was very, very, very consistent at Brands Hatch. I mean, and if he hadn't been, he would not have won that race at all, because Adrian Holm himself was very, very consistent as well. For anybody who wants to watch that very intense battle at Brands Hatch, you can do that via our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TouringProSeries. Live broadcast is on there. It truly was one of the most intense races between two top drivers at the top of their game that I've seen in a long, long time, and ever, I think, as well. Maybe Stoffel Van Dorner, Toby Davis at Barbagallo back in V8's 2012. That was 60 laps nose to tail, and Stoffel Van Dorner held Toby off. But that's the kind of calibre that battle was in, Scott.
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, look at the gaps now. It's 5.6 seconds to Davis between himself and Holmes. So, I mean, looking at the comparison of sector times, it does seem to me that Toby has got a very, very strong first sector. In fact, at the moment, he seems to be the only man at this point in time who can set a sub 22 second first sector, which is incredibly strong, especially for a car like the Sierra. But then it seems to me that the Skylines seem to have the edge in sector 2, where it's more of a straight line and a long straight, where they could use the, I'm not sure if it's a slight power advantage or the power delivery advantage down the straights. And so it seems to be on the winding sections, the chassis of the Sierra seems to be keeping Toby in good stead, but on the straights, that's where the Nissans can start to claw it back a little bit. But because you know, it seems to be the Sierras kind of outstrength the Skylines 2 sectors to 1. It's being fast in a straight line on the fast bits here. It's not enough for the guys like Adrian Hall, Ross McGregor to kind of stay in front. But it is, I take that back, because Ross McGregor is doing well enough to keep it ahead of Chris Butcher. But I said that maybe because of the fact that he's on the medium tyres rather than the hard compact tyres.
You know, we might be doing him a bit of a disservice there, because it's not that Ross is not a good driver. He has wins in the Touring Pro Series, and he has wins in this series, at least not in this mod. And throughout this season, he has been improving all the way up through. He's had to put lots of effort into Brands Hatch and Trois-Rivieres to try and get close to Adrian Hall, which is very difficult at the moment because he's on absolute fire. But he's only 1.2 seconds behind Holm at the moment, and his tyres aren't going off, quite clearly, because he would be losing ground by now if he was on a different tyre strategy to Adrian. So I think we'd be doing Ross a bit of a disservice here, and he is on the hard tyre. But Davis's tyres seem to be dropping off a little bit now, don't they? 7.3 in that lap. What's he got this time around, actually? 7.3 is a little bit too slow. What has he got now? He's back to a 6.9, so his tyres are absolutely fine. Just a small mistake on the previous lap. His tyres are still fine, and he's got 6 laps to go until his first pit stop.
More's the point, look at this, gap for second place. Adrian Hall has been closing rather rapidly. I mean, my comments were certainly not putting Ross McGregor to a disservice whatsoever. I know, in fact, he's a very prominent driver, has won races before, and is one of the fastest guys that they're in the series at least. So I fully understand the calibre, of course, and of such a driver, Ross McGregor. But even so, he really is wrestling that Glen Seaton Skyline to its full capacity, because he's starting to rapidly close in on Adrian Holmes. Whether or not Adrian's trying to take too much out of his tyres, or he's in tyre conservation mode at this point in the race to try and gain a couple of laps on there. But even so, you can't afford to kind of back off too much on a circuit like Trois-Rivieres, because of course allowing Toby to run away with the lead on the harder compound time like he is at this point in time, it's just really playing into Toby's hands, and also it's playing to everyone else's behind, because they're going to take full advantage, close in, and before you know it, Adrian, you know, this could be a trick up his sleeve that he's playing here. We don't know yet. It all depends on when he makes that first of what we believe is going to be 2 pit stops. But yeah, Adrian now maybe with a shaky lap, so Ross is doing everything he can to close in, and full credit, he's doing a damn good job at the moment. And
also interesting, Scott, is we've not seen the racing that we normally see in Virtual Touring Masters here at this track, which is unsurprising, because it's one of those tracks where it's very, very tight and very difficult. The more difficult a track is as well, the less likely you are to see lots of tight racing. But Chris Butcher has dropped way off the back of this group. But also, again interesting, Scott, has been that lap from Toby Davis another mistake. He's cost himself 1.2 seconds at least on that lap, and as he's on the more risky strategy, he cannot afford to keep doing that. That's been at least 3 laps now where he's cost himself over a second, and he could have a 7.6 second gap by now, but instead he has a 4.6. But Chris Butcher just quickly, he's dropping off the back of Ross McGregor massively at the moment. He's 6 seconds behind Ross, and this is not what we expected at all.
Could it be speculation that he's on the medium tyre and used it too much? That's why the Alphas dives for pit lane.
It wasn't quick enough, early on for that, surely.
No, but even so, whether it's...
I guess we'll find out in a few laps' time. But it's a strange one. It really is. Maybe he's made mistakes somewhere. There is a bit of bodywork damage there on the right-hand side of that car, so maybe he's made a mistake that's cost him a bit bigger than, a bit more time than Toby's small mistakes have cost him.
The trouble is that this is not a circuit where you want to be just playing chicken with the barriers. I think that Toby Davis needs to realise that before he gets himself into trouble. So, Chris Butcher appears to be suffering as well, whether or not it's any damage he's got as a legacy. So again, you cannot be rubbing up against the wall like that, Toby, when you're under brakes. You have to be so careful with these cars, because especially with these kind of cars, if you tweak them just the wrong way, even a tiny piece of contact with the wall, it can dent a piece of the suspension, and it can really hinder the handling of a car, especially with a car as prominent as the Ford Sierra, especially with the turbocharged engine in it. You do not want handling problems with a car like this. It's a sort enough car as it is in itself, but under power, of course, when you're trying to handle some 400 or 500 horsepower for this machine, the last thing you want is a steering wheel that will not play ball.
Absolutely not. And the lap time now, the lap time's gone off, so the tyres have dropped. The tyres have dropped off. That's official. Is it 7.6 or 7.4? And that's with fairly clean runs. The tyres have gone. They're now only matching the hard tyres as well. So those 3 seconds that he's thrown away while his tyres were quick as well have been very important, very costly indeed. I think that was Jeff Dobbing there, spinning off. We spoke about how difficult this track is and what the attrition rate will be like. And we've lost Bernard, Stenbeck, Straub, Oyala, Nielsen, Matthews, Tuinainen and Gary Lennon this early in the race. That is an extraordinary list of casualties early in this race, Scott. That's unprecedented this season.
But on one upside, it means less traffic.
It does mean less traffic, of course, for the lead. It means less action for us guys as well. I think people have underestimated how difficult this race is going to be, and they've paid the maximum penalty for that. It's annoying me quite a lot, that people have underestimated how difficult the race will be. It's pretty obvious. It's a night race at a very tight street circuit, but there you go. They've only had 2 weeks to practice. Toby Davis now crosses the line at 7 as an 8.0. So the tyres have absolutely gone on that car. Adrian Holm, the gap is now 4.2. Ross McGregor is right behind Adrian Holm now as well. This is really heating you up ahead of these first pit stops, Scott.
It really is. I think that the first pit stop is going to be very telling for the story of the race. If we now look back from Adrian Holm, looking at the looming number 15, the red, white and blue skyline there. Oh, is McGregor just trying to get the power and squirming around on the rear tyres, just brushing the bar a little bit. But this is where it seems to be that this skyline is stronger on the track in this second sector, down this very fast back section, along with the hard braking zone.
And De Vries is out. De Vries is out as well, so De Vries gone.
Oh dear, and Sven De Vries, there really is casualties here tonight here at Trois-Rivieres.
Yeah, we're only 10th at the time, so if you just finish this race now, you're going to get points.
But I think at this point in time, finishing the race is kind of easier said than done, I think, at this point in time, because it's really not an easy feat.
It seems like it. And so that's not good for De Vries. His friend Heesdebig is still going in 12 spots. We're not seeing very much of the field at the moment. We will run through the field now, in fact, actually. We'll do it now, just before these pit stops happen. Davis back to a 7.4, so it was a good lap there from Davis on those older tyres. So Holm is in second, McGregor is in third, closing on that second spot. Chris Butcher qualified in third, dropped back to fourth at the start and not being able to hang on to the coattails of McGregor or Holm. Wiesenmuller has been just keeping the same kind of pace as a leader the last few laps, so he's gaining on Butcher now as a result. He passed Monroe about 10 laps ago, who was in 6th spot. Richards was much closer than he is right now a few laps ago. He's dropped away, with Nyring having a poor race by what he would expect. He's only just, I think, got ahead of David Jones, who's right behind him. Jeff Dobbin there out of kilter in the Model 1 Ford Sierra, the old Peter Croft livery. There's David Jones in the Eggenberger livery, very, very famous black and red Texaco Ford Sierra, with Matthew Orban in 10th spot in the little M3. Mikkel Helen in the 635 in 11th, with Heesdebig in 12th. Rather battered Heesdebig, it looks like. 13th is Reece Gardner, and now to be 13th in that car really is an achievement, Scott. He is trying to wrestle this hold around this track, and you would have thought that with all of all the cars, this would be one of the cars that would DNF first, but it seems to be not the case. 14th spot is Ethan Bass, with 15th Enderman and 16th Ferreira. Just a few more runners left, and Occupant and Demelin and Dobbin and Jay Adji, in fact, is still behind Fender Vries on track. That's how many pit stops he's had to make, unfortunately. He was involved in that first lap mix-up with Anders Nielsen.
And that hole in the course, you would have thought it would last. Oh, is that somebody stopped? Is that somebody in the pit lane? I think that's someone who's stopped out on circuit or has just in the pits passing turn the lights off. But even so, that's going to be a flat battery. I'm kidding, of course. But even so, as Toby Davis heads into pit lane, this is big. Toby Davis into pit lane to make his first of 2 pits at Trois-Rivières. This is going to be crucial, of course. If he can get an undercut on these 2 guys behind, of course, and try and maintain the gap he had. It was 3.6 seconds when he came in, but he hits the jacks and the team get to work to change all 4 tyres. As there goes McGregor.
What a great shot that is, actually, watching those guys go through. Davis leads, so he'll come out. Oh, will Butcher pass him? Butcher will pass him, so that will be a bit of a fly in the ointment. I wonder if some team orders will come in, but of course, Chris won't care about team orders because he has Adrian Holm in his own team as well. Remember, he's THR driver. There's no teams in Virtual Touring Master, but of course the organisations still remain, of course, you know, the groups that race together and practice together and share setups and whatever. So, Butcher doesn't mind who wins the championship, it's still the THR championship.
Yeah, I think that if there are going to be any shenanigans between the two, I think there might be a bit of a salty atmosphere in the THR team speak, at least if they're going to get together.
As well.
Oh, was there?
Yes, there was. There was a not happy Chris Butcher after Cohen.
Oh dear. But even so, Ross McGregor now doing everything he can just to hold on to the coattails of Adrian Holm as they turn their way. They've gone around for another time. They have missed pit lane, so they feel confident on these tyres for the moment, and McGregor's lost a bit of time. He was less than second behind. It's now gone out to 1.1 as Holm now with relatively clear track at the front of the field is going through. Meanwhile, we look back here. This guy's Nearing has now been overtaken by or has he been overtaken? No, he hasn't. Sorry, by David Jun. Nearing trying to force him back up the inside. These two have been at it all race so far. Oh, and Nearing off the exit. There he goes.
Oh, what happened there?
I think too eager on his right foot. I think that's what happened there, Ryan.
End of the race for Klaus Nearing. The right foot, and I think he touched the back of Junt on the exit. Here we'll see.
I'm not sure he did. I'm not sure. I think he did it all by himself. Let's look at the replay. Oh, no, he did. My apologies. He did. Yeah. And that put him. But I think in many ways, all due respect to him, I think in some ways he kind of did that himself.
Yeah, absolutely. His own fault. But he definitely touched the back of Junt just under power, and that just pushed him around. McGregor seems to be going through phases here, where at the end of the stint, well, towards the end of the stint, Holm is beginning to pull away once again. So these guys have got around about 7-8 laps before they pit, at lap 31-32 mark. Butcher and Davis are now together. Butcher won't be doing Davis any favours. And Davis needs to get past Butcher as quickly as he can. He's looking for a good exit out of here. Will he get it? Not quite. He had an amazing lunge to get past at this point, and he doesn't do so. Davis knows he can't push the medium tyres too hard early in their life, else they really fall off later in the race. And now Davis is stuck behind the worst possible place because he's stuck behind at turn 3 where he can't make a move. And now he gets the exit, and this is where he'll pass with the greater grip, and he'll go through and take that 3rd spot.
He also will get a small little draft from John Nosklink in his Mustang just in front, and slots through, and Chris Butcher probably not as obliging as we'd imagine.
He did just let him through the straight there, though, to be honest. I saw him just flip the brakes just to make sure Davis gets properly ahead, so he was quite sporting in the end.
Yeah, even though there's no teams, he did rather sportingly capitulate 3rd place, as there's Reese Mother 5th and John Monroe 6th.
Matt Richards is the other driver on medium tyres. I thought that might be the case because he was right behind Nearing, etc. And then he dropped off, didn't he? And he pitted just a couple of laps ago, and he's rejoined ahead of Mikael Helen. Because these two drivers now have 1 pit stop left each. But of course, if Matt Richards is on medium tyres, he should see him finish the race ahead of Mikael Helen, barring any mistakes, of course, which we found at this track pretty easy to come by. Plenty of points on offer for the people who don't normally pick up too many points. People like Łukasz Demelin is going to pick up plenty of points here, and Jonathan Ockenden. They've been trying their hardest all season long, and they're finally going to get their reward because they've got the staying power and others have not.
Yeah, this really is a race of attrition. Actually, as I say, keeping it on the blacktop rather than trying to take risks and play chicken with the barriers, as we said. And these guys, granted they've had 2 weeks preparation, but even so, all the preparation can't pay for a circuit that's as prominent and as very testing, such as Trois-Rivieres, as the Skylines continue to head around in line, almost in line astern on the end of another lap. Still got a few more laps before they're due to make their, what I believe they're on hard tyres, one and only pit stop of the race. But just to get something right on my facts here, I believe so. Toby started the race on medium tyres. He's running a 2-stop medium. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. That seems to be the case.
Okay, so 2-stop medium for Davis, showing how fast he is there. Fresh tyres certainly proving their advantage.
Yeah, still on medium because the fastest he can go on hards is 6.6. So a 6.3 is definitely a medium tyre lap.
And at the moment he's lapping, of course, on fresher tyres, a second lap quicker, of course. Well, he would do, of course, the fact that it's fresher tyres and it's also a faster compound. So Holm, and you see here already, you can see he's already on the back straight, and he should even have them in his sights just as they come down towards the brake. Should be in the front of the shot. Well, I thought they would be anyway.
Well, there's 1 stop each now, basically. This is down to 1 stop each, so it's down to pure car pace and tyre pace. Davis needs to make this gap up, but remember, he made plenty of mistakes in that first stint, and ended up being only 4 seconds ahead of Adrian Holm when he entered the pits. So it might not even be that in this stint, you know, he's 6.5 seconds behind now. He might not even make up that time. At the moment, he's making about 4 seconds per stint and losing 12 seconds at the pit stops. So it's absolutely far too close to call.
He's certainly not making life easy for himself, that's for sure, as he comes across the line. He's taken another 6/10 out of the guys in the out of Holm at the front. And the gap now
just
between
in that sector
him...
though as well.
Just in that sector,
just in that sector, yeah.
Just in that sector, yeah. Looking at the comparison lap times, I have it on my iPad here when it comes up. And the last lap, if it updates on the screen at all in a second, it should do it in a moment when I see it. But yeah, 1 minute 7.461 compared to a very prominent, I guess that must be at least a 1 minute 6 point something there for Davis on fresh tyres.
6.4 I think it was, something like that. So that's he has absolutely got the pace, because of course the hard tyres, although they are much more durable, they are dropping off at this point, as you can see, because Holm was doing high 6s, but of course you can see they don't drop off as much as the medium tyres. So now, but Holm will be in the pits pretty soon, and he'll come out on fresh tyres, which will be matching Toby Davis's 10-lap old medium tyres. That's the thing we've got to remember here. Davis will not be pulling away from Holm after Holm pits, because they'll be on pretty much the same kind of standard tyre, because the mediums will have worn by that point. So that will be the interesting thing to see, what the gap will be when Davis pits for the second time at lap 42 or thereabouts.
Yeah, and of course then it's all a case of on those fresher tyres, of course, and presumably, of course, with a lighter fuel load. I don't believe these cars refuel during the race, but correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
They do refuel, yeah.
Oh, they do refuel. Okay. No, I thought it was one of those ones where it's just you put all the fuel you can and then just go to the end. But I'm guessing the fuel tanks aren't big enough.
No, they're thirsty monsters, especially in the Holden. Imagine the Holden trying to go the full race.
Oh goodness me. Well, the thing is that the Holdens historically were always better at the enduro races. Particularly, I know for a fact that when the Holden first made its European debut back in '87, when it was part of the World Touring Car Championship. It eventually ended up after several BMWs were disqualified for having I think their roof panels were too underweight.
Ford Sierras, their wheel arches were too tall, which allowed them to run higher, I think, bigger wheels, which meant you could go faster on the straights.
Oh no, you're thinking of Bathurst. I'm thinking of Monza. There was Monza that same year as well. Yes. Monza was the same. I think it was about six BMW M3s all got disqualified because their roofs had too thin a metal or something. It was too light, and therefore they were underweight and they were all got thrown out. And the victory eventually went. I think it was given, or even at least third place was given to the. It was given. Yeah, I think it was given to Grice and John. And no, John Harvey. I think it was.
No, John Harvey was driving Grice.
Yeah. Yeah, Rothman's Commodore that was a fantastic looking car as well, and yes, you are right. And then of course going to Bathurst, of course, I think originally it was thought that the fuel was illegal, but that was proved not to be the case. And then they found that, as you said, yeah, the wheel arches were too big. The two Tetsuko Sierras got thrown out of the Bathurst race, and eventually the victory went to Mr. Brock, and I think he was sharing, I think, again with John Harvey or somebody, or Alan Moffat possibly, one of the two. But even so, that's a bit of a history moment over. But yeah, but the Holdens have generally been, for the most part, better on the endurance races rather than the sprints, and
mainly because they didn't break. That's the one. Because remember, back in for those viewers who are a bit a bit younger, back in the day, cars used to brake a lot. And they'd be very, very fast, but then they would brake after 100, 150 kilometres, and then they'd go in the pits and be repaired for 2 minutes, and then make it all back up again, and then brake again. And that I'd repeat ad infinitum. And in the 1990 race, it was the same kind of thing. All the Sierras broke, the Skyline broke, and the Holden came through, Ryan Grice, and the car that was probably 7th fastest on the day ended up winning because it was reliable. Well, these days, of course, it's the fastest car that wins because the cars rarely break. But this is from a bygone era. Back to the present time, though, Scott, look at the gap between the top 3.
Very interesting indeed, because look at this. That's the advantage of fresh tyres and a faster compound tyre. Toby Davis all over the rear end of second place, Ross McGregor. Of course, remember, these two have not made a pit stop yet, and this is all problem because effectively, I think the time which Toby's made up here on the fresh tyres, he's gained, this is effectively a massive undercut he's gained on these guys' fresh tyres. He's going to go to the inside. As McGregor goes in, he doesn't deep dart in, so it's McGregor's the first to blink. Oh, and just about gets it in.
He hit the wall. I wonder if that's going to cost him, because you might get a repair damage thing come up now. Hopefully he's remembered to turn it off, and that short instance away from there, and oh, Ross.
Oh dear,
no,
that's not a short pit stop. In comes Wiesenmuller and also Butcher as well, and Munro, in fact.
And Munro, and McGregor's done it. He's done exactly what I said. He had the repair turned off, but as he came into the pits, he's hit the wall and it's reactivated, or he didn't unactivate it. The repair all bodywork situation. And that's going to cost him 40 seconds, and that's the end of Ross McGregor's challenge for this race win. That is a very, very silly error has cost him this race.
Disappointing. It's also cost him 41.7 seconds. That's exactly how long the pit stop was compared to what should have been a quick 8 to 9 second stop. It's pretty much taken almost 5 times the length of that, which is a real disappointment. But that's the price you pay for making an error like that. Of course, and Ross will be absolutely kicking himself, as I'm pretty sure anyone would be. I know I certainly would be after that. But now he's got to see if he can try and, well, race as clever as he can, just make up as much time as he can on this second set of hard tyres to run towards the end. So, yeah,
I do feel massive sympathy. Holmes in the pits as well. I do feel massive sympathy for him, but at the end of the day, it was his own fault, unfortunately, and he'll realise that as well. But he'll be fuming right now with himself.
But he's got to try and control his temper, because yes, it's going to be frustrating as Holm exits the pits after, I think it was about a 9-second pit stop, which that's about a second slower than Toby managed in his pit stop. His was about 8.6, so I think Holmes was about 9.4 or so. That might be slightly wrong on that one, but he's lost about a second or so in the pit stops at least. So, and the gap as he came out, look at that, was 14.6 seconds. So that's just how much. So the gap after the pit stops has dramatically increased. But also that's because
15.2, yeah. And remember, Davis only cost himself it's only 12 seconds for a pit stop, because the pit lane is so short. You might be, you stood still for 8 seconds, but you only lose 4 seconds in the pits because the pit stop's so short, and it's 100 kilometers an hour pit speed limit. So I'm not quite sure how Holm has managed that to be 15 seconds behind Davis, because he was a second ahead of Davis going into the pits, which means he's lost 16 seconds in the pits. Either my information is incorrect, or Holm has made a mistake somewhere, either in pit lane or just on the approach to pit lane right before the pits, and we missed it.
Well, considering the fact that Ross made the mistake he did, I wouldn't have put it past Adrian on the worn hard compound tyres he had to possibly have made a mistake. There was no evidence of damage. Of course, if there was, then he would have been this stage from as long as Ross McGregor was. That's a simple fact. But the fact that he was only there for about a second longer than maybe Davis was in the pit stops.
But where's the other?
That's tricky.
3-4 seconds come from? That's very strange.
Anyway,
it looks like that's kind of game over, really, because Davis is now going to pull away a little bit and then hopefully hold on in the second half of his stint, and then he's going to pit, probably rejoin either in front or just behind Adrian, and have fresher tyres for the final 20 laps of the race. So, and better tyres, better compound tyres. So it looks like, with McGregor's mistake and whatever's happened to Holm there, that's kind of the end of the excitement here, unless Davis makes a mistake. Youngs, meanwhile, hasn't pitted at all. Doesn't look like he's going to pit in this race, and Wiesenmuller has, and he looks like Wiesenmuller's going to go past Youngs here. Interestingly, Butcher has been passed by Munro in that pit stop phase, and he was passed just before the pit stop phase by Wiesenmuller. So Butcher is really, really struggling here today.
He
In
is.
fact, he's 10 seconds behind Wiesenmüller.
Yeah, and Wiesenmüller is not in fact being helped at all by the fact that he's now being held up by an errant David Junt, of course, in that Tesco Sierra. And he did just almost make contact as Wiesenmüller then sent it up the inside. And Junt putting a very stringent defence. He just goes a little bit wide and back in towards turn 2. And how long can these guys keep up? You're going to have to sort yourselves out before turn 3.
They're both part of the THR organisation as well. So this is rather straight. In fact, we've got a THR 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in front of the field currently. THR do have fantastic drivers, but with Ross McGregor being sent down the field, it's really given a bit of a clean sweep to THR at the moment.
It's almost as if, in many ways, that THR become like the equivalent of Real Madrid in football. When the Galacticos, they can't tend to kind of poach almost all the best drivers just to make sure no one else can beat them. It's quite strange. But it's now become, look at it.
And then Wiesenmüller down the inside now, finally, and it won't be very happy Wiesenmüller with this.
Ooh.
Because these guys are teammates in THR and they're not supposed to be battling that hard, really. Junt is on a different strategy to just let Wiesenmüller go through. He's just being a pain, really, to be honest, because Junt was pitting anyway at some point, so he was never going to keep Wiesenmüller behind him for the rest of the race. I'm not quite sure what Junt was playing up there. And he won't be very popular with the team management, it has to be said. On the subject of THR, I mean, they do have a history of improving drivers, however, as well. Home was all promise before, he won a race, he won a couple of races before he joined THR, and since then he's really blossomed. He might have done that, without joining THR, but it has really helped him. And they do have a track record of doing that. So it's not just a case of hoovering up all the talent. They do help to nurture that talent as well, it seems. And Monroe was looking dangerous on the inside. Moved across the braking. Not quite sure what Wiesenmüller was doing there. He is very riled, I fear, from what's been happening with David Junt. He gave David Junt a hip and shoulders into the pit lane the previous lap. And there, he either got out of shape under braking or decided that he didn't want Monroe to go through. Let's watch that on replay again. Look at that. He moved across the circuit. Right into his teammate, and that he did try to correct it back again. Actually, in fact, probably just under braking. Just see the car come back away from Monroe again as the contact happened. So I don't think that was malicious there from Wiesenmüller, but he'll be a bit rattled now because he was very much clearly on for this third spot, and Monroe has been allowed to close that 3 or 4 second gap because of Junt holding Wiesenmüller up. The Germans and the Austrians historically get along, but not in this case.
No, not in this case at all. I think in some ways, it's basically where they just, almost got in the back of John Ray, I think, a little bit. And a bit, slide for Ostland there.
And the reason
they off the barriers.
They didn't get along is because obviously David Junt is Swiss, but we do like to tease him that he's Austrian because he does get rather het up about it.
You cause too much trouble, Mr. Callan. But even so, look at these two. I mean, in some ways, it's an extreme way to suggest it, but in some ways, I saw that instant, and for some reason, the words Prost, Heidfeld, Formula E instant. But thankfully, it wasn't as extreme an outcome in terms of there wasn't someone flying the barriers upside down. But even so, it was. Again, I'm not suggesting in the slightest that it was deliberate by Wiesenmüller at all. It's simply a case it might be just a jerk reaction from the car moving across in the braking zone simply by the steering these cars is so sensitive sometimes that once
and
one
the braking
tweak
is
the
very,
wheel
very difficult as well in these cars because remember these cars are so old. I mean, these are from the 1980s. That's 30 years old, these cars, and they've got much more power than their tyres can handle, quite frankly. And that Scannon's got 400 brake horsepower. The brakes are not, it's 30-year-old brakes. These cars are tough to handle. As you can see, the attrition rate here today, it's not just the track, it's the fact that the cars are so difficult. If the cars were easier to drive, we wouldn't see so much attrition. But the cars and the track put together, really, you end up seeing lots of DNFs, as we can see. And Wiesenmüller was in 16th, we dropped back to 18th now, so he's had a bit of an off somewhere. With JIG still in that 19th spot, he's fighting valiantly to try and gain some positions back. He's been trying to do that all race long, it feels like.
He does, but even so, we've still got 19 cars on the road. The attrition rate has been rather extreme.
We've not lost anybody for about 20 laps.
Don't say that. Don't say that. It's going to happen now. You cursed it again now.
But what do you mean again? It was you earlier. Anyway, Ross McGregor.
All right, one
nice
apiece then. One apiece then. One apiece. All right.
Oh, Munro has been passed again by Wiesenmuller. So Munro has been passed again by Wiesenmuller. Wiesenmuller has been very quick here today, and that's not a surprising move, I have to say. So Wiesenmuller is now going to get on with the rest of his race, I feel, and he may be on for another podium, another TPS podium for him. Nowhere near, of course, to win, but another podium for the German. He's becoming a top driver. He's very frustrated though at being in TH, because there are so many fast drivers in there. Well, he is very fast himself and has a championship to his name, remember? He always feels like he's playing second fiddle still.
Yeah, he does, but I mean, even so, I mean, John is a very prominent. These two, of course, are very prominent drivers. Of course, they prove themselves on the TPS stage that they can win races and, of course, and do themselves justice. Of course, and these two, of course, were championship rivals back in the previous Virtual Touring Masters when it was the big Group 5 DRM machines. Of course, I mean, it was John in the Ford Capri, and Robert in the wonderful Toyota Celica. It was kind of the Ford was always kind of like an all-round car in terms of performance. In some ways, I thought the Celica had all the horsepower, but didn't exactly have all the handling. But then again, Wiesenmuller managed to prove us wrong in most parts for that one. But these two, of course, now in equal machinery, both in Skylines, and they're definitely seeing who's accepted. And somebody's on fire! Is that Jones?
That's
David
fire
Jones
blowing out of the back of David Junt's car. He's had a big smash. Look, he's missing the front wheel, I think. A big smash. And look what's happened here. He's gone straight into a wall.
He's lost it on the curb on the exit.
Oh, that is and he's hit the bumps on the exit there, which are absolutely fatal. And this is the death blow right here. Smash into the barrier, and that is the end of his race. And he's actually, the car's still running, I think, so he went into the pits, and then as he goes into the pits, look what happens.
Bang.
Bang. There goes the engine off, and the engine just ignites, and that's the end of David Junt's race.
Either that, or that's the turbo expiring quite flamboyantly.
Or maybe he's been doing so well because he's got a bit of a jet engine in the back of that car. But either way, it's the end of his race.
Sure, that's legal. That's a jet engine. Anyway, so
it's probably not.
Another...
The power that the Eggenbergers managed to get out of this area, you wouldn't bet against it.
You wouldn't know. That's fair representation. Meanwhile, we're on lap 41 of 63, and my calculations, Ryan, I believe we're getting close to pit stop number 2 for Mr. Davis. I think because he's on lap 41. I think there's only another couple of laps left, and he has dropped back down to 1 minute 8 on those medium tyres. So I suggest possibly we're going to see his second and final stop before he has to try and make the charge to try and close back in. He's got a 15-second gap, and that we believe, of course, with the gap, the time you lose in the pit stops, may just be enough to possibly get him out in front. If not, he'll be just behind, of course, and on the faster compound tyre, as he has done in this second stint, I would expect Toby just to sail up to the back of Adrian once again, and then possibly try and make a pass if he can. But then again, as we said so many times, catching somebody in racing is one thing, particularly on this circuit, passing is quite another.
But remember, big picture also as well. Holm is a distant second, I think, in this race at the moment, and Toby's going to win the race. But in the big picture, Holm is only losing 3 points in the championship, and the gap will be 26 points between the two drivers going into Bathurst, which means that even if Toby wins Bathurst, Adrian Holm just needs to finish in the top 6 at Bathurst to win the title. So although Holm is being bested here, that's absolutely the case. We'll have a quick look at the standings here for you. As you can see, 29 points gap at the moment. He'll lose 4 points, in fact, actually, but the situation still remains. He'll lose 4 points, so the gap will be 25 between the two, which means he will need to finish in the top 6 at Bathurst if Toby wins. But the leggy thing is that Skyler will be faster at Bathurst due to the extra power it's got. It's got 400 horsepower compared to Toby Davis's 370 horsepower in that Sierra.
It was more than that. I thought it was about 400, 500, but I must guess I was wrong.
It was 550, in fact, they got up to in the unrestricted turbo era, but this is the restricted DTM engine that they're using, which ensure parity between all the drivers, because of course you can't have a Sierra with 550 brake horsepower, because it will just win everything. So this is the DTM engine that ran in the late 80s, which equalised all the M3s, the Mercedes, and the Toby Davis, and the Sierra Cosworth. And it was a restricted turbo intake, and that's what made sure that it kept down to 370 brake horsepower.
I think anyone's brave enough to restrict Toby Davis himself. I think that's a dangerous thing to try and do that, isn't it?
It probably is. At the moment, it's 15.1 seconds, still ahead of Adrian Holm, and I think he'll be pitted this time around. And he'll only have 19 laps on his final stint as well, so that will be a benefit to him also. They've done 22-lap stints.
Getting very sideways though, especially in the exit through turn 2 at least. And again, I think if that's not a signal to come into the pits, I don't know what is. Unless you, well, I'm going to hold my tongue there rather than say something that might put a curse on them again. But Adrian Holm now 15.1 seconds back, moving around one of the 3.5s. And he slots in just behind the black and white. Oh, and Matt Richards behind, I think in the Volvo, getting completely sideways. He holds on to 6th position.
I think that was Enderman in...
Enderman, sorry, yes.
It could be Enderman, I'm not quite sure. Yes,
well,
it could be Enderman, because that's the wrong part of the circuit before. We're not seeing too much of Enderman, actually. If we talk about him, he's come back to the TPS after several months absence. Oh, and whoa! Enderman! Putting on the show there as well, as Toby Davis comes into the pits, and we think he'll come out ahead of Adrian Holm. But quickly about Enderman, he went away to Australia for several months and has come back and has been as good as ever. So nothing has harmed his sim racing ability while he's been in Australia.
Davis then with his second stop. All done and
passing our camera. We will not. Davis will hold on.
Is that him now?
Yeah,
it is him now.
And Holm, of course, is now on 13 lap old hard tyres, and Toby's on fresh mediums. That is absolutely game over. However, I did say that was game over, I think, in season 2 at this point, and Davis spanned the car, meaning Oyara won the race. So, what we're looking for here is to make sure that Toby does not make a big mistake. The gap is 0.9 of a second as Toby Davis gets his tyres up to temperature. Holm looking menacing. Will he be able to distract Toby? Will he be able to push Toby into a mistake? You'll be surprised, but it might happen. Strange things have happened.
What you don't want, of course, is to make it 2-1 in terms of commentators' curses to yourself, because if that's the case, then that's
well,
not unwanted.
Technically, I haven't cursed anybody yet. Nobody's actually DNF from the race, as I said. Oh, yes, they have. Debut didn't he? That's absolutely correct. And it was about 2 laps after. Okay, so it is 1-1. Okay.
Yeah.
I lose that one. And now Davis, you can see, has got his tyres up to temperature and he's pulling away from Adrian Holm. The gap at the line is going to be about 1.2 seconds. 1.3.
1.3.
Oh, I lose. Oh, Enderman's the pit. So Enderman's pitted now. He was on the medium tyre strategy. So, and he's just pitted. I thought he couldn't find his pit stop for a second, pit box for a second. But he was just actually coming out of the pits, and the car seemed to dine him just for a second out of the pit box. But out he comes. He's on medium tyres, and Wiesenmüller's coming around to lap him here. And this is going to be awkward for Wiesenmüller because Enderman's going to get out of the way. That was very Germanic of Enderman to his fellow compatriot there. And the two Germans letting each other through, and very, very courteous indeed. Goodness me.
It's almost like after you, after you, after you. I insist.
It's almost like they're not racing out here today. Come on, Enderman, give us some action. We want some David Yates out there.
We know he's been away for a while, but even so, he's forgotten how to properly kind of. He seems to have gone away and learnt and forgotten a bit of, racecraft and gained a bit of etiquette. Kind of like, well, I'm not going to battle him. I'm actually going to just let him go like a gentleman. I think
he can't have learned to be a gentleman in Australia. Everyone knows there's no such thing as a gentleman in Australia. So I'm not sure where he's been.
Careful, I think we do have some Australian fans. Let's not upset them, especially with Bathurst coming up.
I don't think Australians want to be gentlemen. To be honest, it's probably a bit pommy to be a gentleman, isn't it? Really.
I suppose so. Yeah. If you make a point of that one, I guess you have the point. Posting that one.
So Reece Gardner, he's 11th. He's Australian in the field. So that's and Enderman loves Australia. He absolutely adores all the Australian sports, all the Australian motorsport. He goes there as often as he can, even though he's a German. His team's called, the team that he runs on occasion is called Team Down Under, even though he's German. So it's clearly a bit of a fan of Australia, the land of the Oz.
I think he secretly wants to be an Australian, I think.
He probably does. He does sound very Australian when he speaks to him as well. He speaks in like this pseudo-Australian Germanic accent when he speaks English. So it's good to listen to because he actually can understand it.
Is it maybe something similar to maybe Nico Rosberg talks? Yes, no?
Well, no, because Nico doesn't speak an Australian accent. But yeah, I see what you mean. It's a big mix. Oh, what a lap there from Toby Davis.
Wow.
106.083. Have that, Adrian Holm.
Faster than qualifying, that, isn't it? No.
No, 5.7
No.
in qualifying, but that's, I think
My
that's
apologies.
3 tenths faster he's gone at any point during this race so far. So where he pulled that out, I'm not quite sure. Whether he should be going that quickly, I'm not quite sure, Scott. At the moment, it's working.
It is certainly working, but maybe just he got fortunate with the traffic and was able to hook up together a clean lap. That's a possibility. But Mikel
What
Heller's
happened the
doing
previous 47 laps? What has he been doing? Must have had a clean run at some kind of 47 laps. No, I'm kidding. He was obviously just right on fire. His second half of the race has been much better than the first half of the race, hasn't it? We saw lots of mistakes in that first, didn't we? At least 3 that we picked up on. But in the second, the last 2/3 of the race, he's been very good indeed.
Yes, much clearer, much more consistent on the laps, and yeah, good job all round on that one so far. So it should be, I thought, fantastic run. Hopefully to him to the flag, I would presume. But again, nothing's ever certain.
Oh,
but
look what
it's
we've
7.5.
Well, look what I've done. Commentator's curse. It is a 7.5 on the next lap.
You've done it again, look.
So I'm going to keep doing this because actually it makes it more fun. Davis is driving really well on this lap. He's doing really, really well. Look at him go through that corner. That's fantastic. Oh, it was at the wall actually as well. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to stop. That's that was. I was
going to say
it was fun for about 30 seconds, and then I got scared.
That's the extreme version of praise. You're going to put him in the wall. Now stop it.
I'm sorry, Toby. I just live with him, so that would not be a good atmosphere at all.
I think one person who probably advised you to go is probably the man in second place, Adrian Holmes. No, come on, keep praising. I want him in the wall, so because I want to try and get a victory here, and just almost try and put the title out of reach for Bathurst, I think.
What's important here for Adrian, of course, is he doesn't make a mistake. He's not going to win the race without a mistake from Toby Davis. He just needs to stay on the black stuff, finish the race in this second spot. It's not a terrible result. He doesn't like coming second. He was quite unhappy at Brands Hatch he didn't win because he came so close. But it's still going to be a second spot here, as it was with Brands Hatch. He's only losing those 4 points. The gap's 25 points. He only needs to finish in the top 6 at Bathurst as a result. And he's done that in every race this season so far. So under the track with a big long straight, as Bathurst does, 2 big long straights of course, it should be absolutely fine to finish in that position, as long as no disconnection or a reliability error or a crash, or lots of things can go wrong. But the probability is Adrian will, if he finishes second here, will be champion at the end of the Bathurst race, because of course Toby Davis has crashed there on several occasions at Bathurst. In season 2, when he had a chance at the title, he crashed. In season 3, when he should have won the title, he crashed. And also crashed there in V8s in 2012 as well. So he does not have a good record. We do have a corner named after him at Bathurst now, called the Davis S's, which is where he's crashed on all 3 occasions, Scott, phenomenally enough. And we do have a sign on the wall saying Davis S's going down there. You know how it says Brock Skyline and John Wixman Vista?
Oh, yes.
Where it says Davis S's on the wall down at the bottom as well.
I've a feeling that it's not the fact that Toby doesn't like Bathurst. I think it's that Bathurst doesn't like Toby. I think
Well,
it's
it
because
could
he's
very
done
much be. The Bathurst gods are clearly not fond of Toby Davis. He needs to make some kind of sacrifice, perhaps. Or maybe he's made lots of sacrifices so far. He's made 3 sacrifices in throwing away 3 championships, or 3 races, and they're nice to him now. Perhaps that's what he's doing.
Maybe with the kind of the slight lack of consistency this season, maybe he's made enough sacrifice this season to look right. I've done enough this season to kind of maybe appease you. Can you just at least let me get a good result and actually try and have some ounce of an opportunity to get the championship here at Bathurst, please? Because I've tried 3 times now here, and you've failed me each time.
That's absolutely correct, and of course he needs some bad luck for Adrian Holm also as well. But just to bring people up to speed on the championship and what's happened and what those mistakes we are referring to are. Holm has been pretty much mistake-free all season. The only mistake he's made has been ran wide at turn 2 at Suzuka in the second round of the season, but he did come back and win that race, so it wasn't costly in the slightest. However, Davis has made costly mistakes at Vitus Park. In the second race, he span from 2nd spot and finished 5th. That was on the final lap he span. Then we went to Laguna Seca and he let Holm through on the final lap, the final corner, Holm to win the race, when Davis has complete command of that and really should have won the race. That's the second mistake of the season. The third mistake of the season was at Pukekohe Park in the second race, where he was too aggressive fighting with his friend and fellow THR owner Chris Butcher. Crashed into Butcher. They both spun. It let Holm gain positions. It cost Davis positions, of course, and it also cost Davis championship penalty points as well. And then the 4th mistake he made in the season was an error, a misjudgment at Salzburg Ring. His car was not obviously, everyone who knows Salzburg Ring knows it's got 2 massive straights, and the Sierra's not quite as good as the Skylines, of course, on those tracks, all the Holdens. And he made a silly dive down the inside of McGregor at the final complex. And remember, McGregor's in the Skyline, so even if he got past, it would have been repassed on the straight. As a result of that silly dive down the inside, he got out of shape and let Meervold through, and that spoiled the rest of the race for Davis because he couldn't get past Meervold for about 20 laps. So he cost himself 2 positions there as well. So if you add all those mistakes up, he would be pretty much level on points with home going into the final race of the season. As it is, looks like we got to 25 points, and those are going to be the stories of the season.
Quite an eventful race right at the front of the championship, of course, and quite an eventful race here, of course. We enter the final 10 laps at Trois-Rivieres. Of course, 8th place, a good run for Matty Orban in the Marlboro BMW, and of course this is some more deliveries. Of course, Toby Davis's car is the Andy Rouse car. I think we're right in saying from 1989. I want to say.
A little bit late. It's the 87, I think, which he won his class, but didn't win the championship. He did win his class though. It might be 88, but it's definitely not 89. 89 is too late.
I think 88 was probably. I think would make sense because they might be the same year. Of course, he had the epic duel pretty much almost all season with Steve Soper when he was there at selected round. So
he did have that caliber livery, for a couple of seasons, so it could be either or.
He did,
so,
yeah.
We'll sit on the fence with that one. I don't know whether Toby Davis is making mistakes or just taking it easy. I think he's just taking it easy at the moment. He's on a 7.6 and 8.1 lap before. He's pretty much just matching home behind him. No need to push. Did that 6.0. He laid that down. Gave a beat down to everybody, and now he's taking it nice and easy, just seeing out this win, which is unusual for him actually. He usually pushes as hard as he can possibly go, but clearly deciding that discretion is the better part of valour here, and that's a good decision, don't you think?
Yeah, I think he decided, look, I could easily take the life out of these soft tyres, these medium compound tyres, and just use them to build up a gap. But effectively, if he does just about enough that he needs to do to keep Adrian at bay for these remaining kind of 9 laps, then he can have himself close to a bit more points back in the championship, at least give him some kind of a fighting chance going into Bathurst in a couple of weeks' time. So, yeah, he has got to play it as smart as he can these final couple of laps and not get drawn into to look for a faster lap time. 1 minute 6.0 is as fast as I think he'll go in this race, and there's no point trying to chase it, especially with the situation where, yes, we've had quite a few cars drop out because of the attrition rate. Yes, of course, at the end of the race, probably the track technically will be a bit more rubbered in, things like that. So, but the fact of the matter is, he needs the points more than he needs the fastest laps or a big enough lead. The gap's now back up to about 4.9 seconds, but I think that's even so because it's a combination of Toby it's simply a case of maybe Toby having slightly better pace in sectors 1 and 3 anyway, and also the fact that Adrian Holm is on tyres which are about 23 odd laps old. So that's two of the main contributing factors to that. But even so, Davis is doing just about enough, it seems, to keep Adrian Holm at bay, just to keep on keeping that gap how it needs to be in order to bring it home, to bring himself some more valuable championship points with the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all Toby can do, however. He'd be very frustrated that Holm was right behind him. He'd be frustrated at McGregor's mistake in the pit lane. We're on board with McGregor at the moment. So he's hunting down Richards, this is going to be a battle at the end of the race, absolutely, because Richards' tyres are going to go off and McGregor has had better pace than Richards anyway. But he'll be frustrated at McGregor's mistake because it meant that McGregor had no chance of getting ahead of Adrian Holm. But Toby's doing all he can at the moment. Obviously, he's paying the penalty for those mistakes earlier in the season, but at the moment, he's winning races, and that's as much as you can do at this present time. So he's doing all he can, and Adrian Holm, of course, is doing just enough. He's an admirer of Prost and Rosberg, Mr. Consistent, his smooth. Oh, look at this fighting! Richards squeezing McGregor for all he was worth there. Trying to go around the outside. Into the anti-cuts, which ended Yunt's race, and that didn't. And contact there again. That's very, very interesting. I'm not sure what McGregor will make of that. Not quite sure why Richards is even doing that, because he's going to be passed anyway. How on earth is he going to hold off McGregor for 7 laps? I've got no idea. His tyre's going to go off more than McGregor's, and McGregor is faster than him. But that was very interesting. Let's watch that on the replay quickly, shall we? What made... Maybe Richards felt that McGregor pushed him wide, but actually Richards turned into McGregor.
He did, yeah.
He did on the entry there.
gets him over the anti-cuts there on the exit, and then just
drives into the back of him, look.
Is that out of frustration? Would he just carry too much momentum? Of course, we know these cars are pretty difficult to run, and of course the fact that the Volvo, it is a heavier machine than the Nissan, so maybe the fact he was just trying to get it stopped under brakes was just about a bit too much after what was going on.
It is lighter than the Nissan, but I think
it is lighter.
If it had been a genuine, I misjudged my braking mistake, then Richards would have let McGregor through by now. But he's not doing so. And it was clearly, in my opinion, a malicious move there from Matt Richards. He felt he was pushed wide, when in fact actually he drove into the side of McGregor and then pushed him right back once again. So I think that's a very naughty boy from Matt Richards there, and that's not something we like to see.
Well, I'll let Stuart decide after that one, rather than that was too much judgment. I have to admit,
it's difficult to tell from the TV camera that we've got, but that's just my first impression of the incident.
Yeah, it was difficult, and I think you definitely have a point that Matt Richards did, from what I could see, did in fact, turn in. There was a bit of contact. Oh, that was the rugger just tapped the left rear quarter there. Matt Richards just to put him a little bit sideways.
I thought Richards was going straight in the barrier there, but he just carried more speed in.
Now
this
down
is a
the
very
back
fighty battle in this race. There's only 5.5 laps to go. And look at this, the pace that the Nissan has in a straight line as it gets up to power. The Volvo, the drag starts to come in and starts to hold it up. But the power off the corner of the Volvo is very good because it's a very good low-down torque and very, very good weight as a result of that as well. Not terrible handling. And now in goes Richards, deep into there as well. Showing how difficult it is to pass at this circuit. McGregor's much, much faster, by at least a second a lap than Matt Richards, but he can't quite find a way past.
No, because it seems to be that Matt Richards is putting that Volvo in all the right places at all the right times and making it the widest 240 Volvo you've ever seen at this point in the race. So at this part, at least from a defensive effort, it's good racecraft at this point at least. Obviously, previously his racecraft wasn't best, but he's certainly kind of trying to redeem himself here by putting up a very strong defensive effort and using the big Volvo to his advantage. The very sprightly Nissan is definitely doing everything he can. Ross McGregor with a recovery effort after he did clip the barrier coming into the pits to make his one and only pit stop. He was stationary for just over 40 seconds, lost him a hell of a lot of time, and now he fortunately finds himself a lap down on the leader and down battling for 6th position rather when he should be up there, ideally battling for the lead. And unfortunately with the pace that he's showing, even though he is, I would guess, somewhere around the leader's pace, around the likes of Holm up in second place, he's going to go for it as he goes side by side again. There's more body contact. We're going now back to the inside, sweeps across into the brakes and just to cover it off. Richards again goes for the outside. They make touch once again over the anti-cuts once more.
Should be at this time, surely.
Oh, and Richards back up the inside. So he doesn't appreciate being overtaken by Ross, that's for sure. A bit more contact on the left rear quarter. Almost trying to, in some ways, it almost just helped McGregor around the corner, saying, "Cheers, buddy, for that." Just give a bit more turning into the left-hander. Just save me a bit of effort there. But
McGregor's gone now. That's going to be this. McGregor's gone. So McGregor finally gets that position back that he'd already pretty much got. A mistake there, though, actually, just before we say that too soon. Richards diving in all kinds of places. He needs to calm down his mouth because he can't just dive in at every which place. This is a street circuit, and even if it had been a normal track, that's not going to work at all. It's going to result in contact, penalty points, and all kinds of stuff. He just needs to calm himself down here, I feel.
Yep. But of course, in the heat of the moment, of course, racing drivers see the red mist and they go for it straight away. So
it's always the driver's fault, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Whether or not everyone around the circuit saw that you blatantly made the move, the driver always get out and say, "Wasn't me, it was him. He was in the wrong." It always happens. Always happens. It's very rare you'll see a racing driver admit to being at fault, as Richard's using all the track a little bit more to put that Volvo a little bit sideways.
There was a NASCAR driver that once said that it's always at least 50% your fault because you chose to be out on the track. Which I think is a handy way for him to get away with all kinds of stuff.
I'm not sure that's exactly how it works, but that's a clever way to try and get away with it, I'll admit that. Matty Orban, 8th place. Haven't really spoken much about him. A very solid effort. 8th position in the little Marlboro BMW. I think he's also the highest running BMW, I believe, just ahead of the other BMW up there in the top 10, which is this man, Mikael Helen. Good run from Mikael. 9th place in the ex-Jim Richards 635 BMW. Ethan Bass in the second of the kind of, works. That's more like the Nissan Australia liveried cars, car number 12. He's doing a good job up there as well. Ahead of Oscar Clint in the big Mustang. Jeff Dobbing's in the pits.
And he's done well too. Jeff Dobbing is in the pits, and I wonder if he's going to lose more places to Bruno Salsifero. Here comes Jeff out of the pits now.
Whoa,
he won't lose position to Salsifero. Here comes Salsa. And he's now going to start his, I think it's his 59th lap. Not quite sure. It's all over the place the time is there. But Salsifero has kept going here today. Bruno's going to pick up some points as a result. Łukasz Demelin is all going to also. Chris Butcher's been into the pits as well. Will that allow Ross McGregor through? There is Ross.
No, it doesn't. No.
And Chris is there. I wonder what has Chris put on soft tyres, do you think? I'm going to nick the fastest lap time from Toby Davis. That would be very interesting. Not quite sure why Chris has pitted. Maybe he just ran out of fuel. But maybe he's put on soft tyres while he's there as well. That'd be an interesting tactic.
Yeah, it's certainly a very sneaky badger who's done that one. That's an interesting way to look at it, isn't it? But yeah, it's Chris Butcher. If he has got soft tyres, we'll probably see that in the lap times. He'll probably just bang in on this final lap at least if he gets it. He gets a clean run at it.
Sorry, look at the state of the edges Alfa Romeo.
Oh dear, that's certainly not how it came out the factory in Italy. That's for sure.
No, that's not the factory in Italy, and there's no.
Yeah, in Milan at least. No.
No, that's probably it's more like an Alfa Romeo driven on the public road. A race car,
in Italy.
Yes, in Italy, and so something you will find in Milan rather than going out of the actual factory in Milan. As Davis now goes past him as well, and puts Adji another lap down. But Adji's plugged away today as well, so that's important because he's picking up points, and he needs those points in the championship. But Davis is now about to start his final lap of the race. His strategy has been superb. He's driving since the end of the first inning. Fantastic, Scott, and this is a fully deserved win.
I think yes, absolutely. He's really proved himself. Of course, these two, Toby Davis and the Caliber Sierra, seem to be a very formidable combination when they both are in harmony. And in that first part, now steady on, Toby. You haven't won the race yet. You've still got one more lap to go. Don't stop drifting at this point in time. Please don't. Please don't throw it away right now.
Don't drift here. Everywhere else, but here. Yes, there we go. That's fine. And he's actually wiggling the car all over the place at the moment. He will be delighted because remember this race has been very long indeed, very trying, very difficult track, and to win a race like this, he will be just over the moon. Oh, and I almost went off.
Oh no! I don't believe it! No!
Oh, the win! It's absolutely incredible! I cannot believe what has just happened! I can't believe my eyes! This is absolutely incredible!
I'm speechless.
Oh, Scott Rufus! What were we saying? Adrian Holm is gifted this win! Adrian Holm has talked about the concentration. Davis was celebrating
Davis
almost
Pitts. I think Davis Pitts.
hitting as well. Just
Holm wins. Holm wins the race. Holm takes the victory.
Oh, what have we seen?
What can you say? I'm lost for words.
Absolutely speechless.
I'm lost for words. I've never seen anything like that in TPS history.
I've seen everything in TPS. I have watched hundreds of races. I have commentated on probably 200 races now. I have never seen anything like that, Scott. What are your thoughts? This is the replay of what happened.
I don't know what to say. I really don't know. We said he cannot, and this is the problem. He cannot afford to be making mistakes like that. Exit. He clipped right rear. It puts him into the barriers, facing the wrong way. And what was lucky? Look at how close Adrian got getting caught up in that. That was not purposeful by Davis and Sorts in terms of spinning around like that. But Adrian Holm was incredibly lucky not to get caught up there. But I'm staggered at that. I've never. Again, I've seen kind of last lap changes like in both sim and real racing, but to have something being thrown away like that, that's just. I'm
gobsmacked.
I'm genuinely lost for words. I don't know what to say to that. That's. I think, to be fair, I think I wouldn't blame Toby Davis if he's not up for an interview. I think.
No, I don't think he'll be doing one.
No. But
that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think it's kind of. But it's what that is. That's unfortunate. That's an unfortunate downer. What was, in all intents and purposes, quite a good race. It's of course one person that'll be overjoyed at that in a way will be Adrian Holm. I'm sure he wouldn't have wanted to kind of win it exactly like that. But even so, if there is a bright side, he can look at the fact it's points that he's gained. But even so,
Well,
That's
after that incredible turn of events, we'll be back with the driver interviews in just a couple of minutes. Gather your thoughts, everyone.
Inside SimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
Well, hello and welcome back. We're still in shock here at the Virtual Touring Masters in the penultimate round of the season. What looked to be a routine race took an amazing twist at the end there. Toby Davis spinning, well, hitting the wall with 3 corners to go at the end of a 63 lap race. A hard-fought win it would have been as well, and he's thrown away that win. We have in the interview booth, we don't have Tobias, unsurprisingly, but we do have some other drivers to talk to. We have the race winner, the gifted race winner, Adrian. Adrian, we'll get to your reaction to what happened there, but you didn't seem to quite have the pace here today, or the strategy to match Toby. Was any kind of reason for that, or just the Nissan not quite good enough at this track?
I drove my heart out in the first stint. And then he pitted for mediums, and that wouldn't have worked for me. I would have destroyed them a bit too early, I think. And yeah, just went for the one-stopper on hards like I've been all season, and I'm a bit lost for words here, really. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, you've been gifted that win, and me and Scott were saying we've never seen anything like it in TPS history. You must have been flabbergasted when you came through and saw what was happening.
Yes, you have. I did in 2011.
Oh, of course, yeah, but that wasn't quite the same. That was,
well, I was leading the race. It was the last lap.
At least half a lap to go there, though.
Yeah, but
and you were under pressure as well. So, and it was your own first race. It's not quite the same. This is a veteran in these cars, a comfortable win. It's just. I mean, your thoughts? What
I thought he had been tangled up with I thought it was an Alpha there, and I was taking it so easy because I didn't want to get caught up in anything on the last lap. And when I saw Toby there, I was like, really? This is not happening. But obviously, my heart goes out to him. He smashed everyone today, and he thoroughly deserved that win.
He did. So that's absolutely incredible. Obviously, Adrian's not much to say to that. Adrian now has a 33-point lead in the championship going into the final round. You will only need, I think, something like 9th spot to win the championship now, Adrian. And how does that make you feel? Nervous, excited?
I don't know.
Under pressure?
Obviously, like we saw today, anything can happen. I'm just gonna do what I've been doing all season, just get the maximum out of myself and the car and the setup, and hope it's enough. But yeah, track should be a bit better than this one. But yeah, I don't know. It's Bathurst.
It is Bathurst, and it's a final race this season. Anything can happen, and of course, Adrian was gunning for his first TouringProSeries championship as well. And a 9th spot will indeed give Adrian the title if he finishes in the top 9. So obviously, that's in 2 weeks' time. But for now, Scott, you've got Robert Wiesenmuller. Robert picked up 3rd position here today with a strong run, but not without incident.
No, of course. Robert, of course, great run for yourself. Podium finish, no less than Nissan. Just talk us through your race, of course, because you had plenty of battles, of course, with John Monroe, and of course, up and down the field with the likes of him and also Ross McGregor. So, just talk us through how you found the streets of Trois-Rivières this evening.
Yeah, it was a very good race for me, I think. I was a lot faster than in practice. I don't know why, but for this race, I actually listened to some of the hints that Adrian gave me, the setup, and it worked. Yeah, and start was not so good. So in the beginning, I was behind a few cars, but then I could get past John in a really hard fight, and then Chris made a few mistakes, so I could get past him as well. And I think I hold him up in a pit stop. And when I came out of the pits, there was really hard battle with Jund, who hadn't pitted by then and didn't let me through. So yeah, I had to get past him very fast, and in the meantime Monroe got past me. And yeah, then towards the end of the race I had better pace than John, though. I could get the position with the pretty hard move, and yeah, finished 3rd. I don't know why I finished 3rd. I don't know what happened to Ross.
Ross, if I remember correctly, he had some problems where he came into pit lane a little bit too hot, clipped the barrier on entry for his one only pit stop, and was stationary for some 40 seconds whilst it was repaired. So he ended up in a battle with Matt Richards mostly for the majority of the end of the race, which he was watching for. But I mean, going forwards into Bathurst, I mean, of course, the pace you showed here, of course, obviously 2 completely different circuits, of course, Bathurst to Trois-Rivières, much longer. There are some winding sections with the barriers, but what are you expecting for the final race of the season, of course? It's going to be a long one, of course, as it was here at Trois-Rivières with the distance. But as a circuit, of course, how are you expecting Nissan to perform at Mount Panorama?
I'm not racing at Bathurst, so my season is over now.
There we go.
Nothing I can say about it.
Good stuff. Okay. In terms of the season you've had overall, then we'll just quickly wrap up that instead. So how would you sum up your fortunes this season with a Nissan compared to other championships where you've been fighting, compared to ones like because with the Virtual Touring Masters with DRM, of course, you're up there fighting for the title with the likes of John up there at the front and Jesper. So here for the title in terms of the championship, you've mostly been fighting kind of for 3rd place in some cases, with all due respect. But how has your season been that you found as a whole compared to other seasons of past?
Well, I missed a few races this season, especially in the beginning, so I couldn't go for the championship. And also, to be fair, at least Adrian and Toby were a lot faster than me. And but otherwise, I think I achieved all goals. Got 2 podiums here, got 1 win, so 3 podiums actually. Got a few good races. Was all pretty clean the whole season. Also got some good battles with Ross and John and Reese and a lot of other guys. So generally, I enjoyed it.
Good stuff, and best of luck for your next championship endeavour going forwards, and hopefully we'll see you back going forwards towards the tops of that once again. But well done for third place and good job.
Thanks a lot.
Now then, I believe that not in the best of lights, but the man of the moment has joined us in the commentary box to talk about exactly what's happened. So Ryan, I guess the floor is yours to speak to Toby Davis.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and this is not the kind of situation where we want to be talking to Toby. I mean, it's a second place, which goes down in the record books. But Toby, I mean, you absolutely fantastic pace today, wonderful strategy, destroyed the field. Talk us through what happened and why.
Oh, I just lost concentration. That's all it was. Nothing else to say really.
I mean, it's utterly dejecting and frustrating as well for you. The time's going to be a long shot anyway. It's even more of a long shot now.
Yeah,
I guess just go out and have fun, isn't it?
It was never going to happen. I won't be able to beat Adrian at Bathurst anyway. That car will probably be around a second lap quicker than mine. So it's going to be tough there. I mean, the long and the short of it is that I didn't do good enough at Salzburgring. That's where I really lost the chance to fight. I gave away best part of 20 points or something there, and I've just never really caught it up. So.
Yeah, I mean it's just one of them seasons where the small mistakes have really been very costly for yourself, whereas Adrian picked up the pieces each time, it seems.
Yeah,
and, one of those things.
I mean, forgetting this. I mean, the actual result in this track, I've beaten Adrian where I've been able to do so, apart from in 2 races, and that's Vitus and obviously here. If I'd
Laguna Seca.
Laguna was a more tricky one. It was a case of he outthought me in that race. Plus the Nissan was pretty close, I would say, to the pace of the Sierra there. But I don't hold. I don't feel like I perhaps should have won that race, but Adrian did a better job that day, and I used my tyres up too much. But look, I mean, he's going to be a worthy champion. He's just got to get through Bathurst, and he can drive at 90% there and still win, quite frankly. So yeah.
Well, many commiserations, Toby. I know it must be very, very difficult for yourself at the moment.
I'm furious with myself, Ryan. That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's that. And that's a. Just absolutely never seen anything like that in sim racing. Not at CPS level, anyway.
One more thing. Apologies to Andy Bonar. I went off track because I thought he might bounce over the anti-cuts, and then he sort of stayed there, and I had nowhere to go. So, but apologies, I misread that situation.
Okay, so well, that's the reaction from Toby. Good of Toby to come into the booth, Scott, to give us a reaction, because I don't know about you, but I would not have come into the booth. I would have just stormed out and not done any interviews whatsoever.
No.
So it was very mature of Toby to come in and big of him to come in and admit that a mistake.
Of course, yeah.
You've got Chris Butcher to speak to now, who had a bit of a lacklustre race and a bit of a drama in the pit lane.
Yeah, just first, of course, commiserations, Toby. I mean, it had me speechless and never seen anything. Of course, no, it's tough to kind of have a situation like that, but fingers crossed that something can work out at Bathurst and you can at least have a solid enough race anyway. So, commiserations, and hopefully you'll be able to pull it back in some context. Moving forward to Chris. Chris, of course, in the Sierra once again. Of course, this race, you were kind of up and down in the top 5 mostly. You obviously expressing where you had a bit of problems in the pit stop as well. Just talk us through just how your race played out and just where your pace took you in terms of over the course of the race.
I don't think you can broadcast what I actually think of it.
Okay.
But I should have out-qualified Adrian. I didn't make the qualifying lap count, and then I got a rubbish start, so that put me behind Ross McGregor, and it cost me a lot of time there. And then I just used up my tyres trying to get past him, simple as that. And then, as a result, the mistakes started creeping in, and Rob got through. But I managed to pretty much stay on the back of Rob. I was trying to go for the undercut, actually. I was hoping he'd pit a lap later, but he didn't. We ended up going into the pits at the same time. And that was to be my downfall, because I found that he had the same pit box as me. because his car is massive, we couldn't share it. So I had to sit there behind him for 7 seconds, which meant I lost the gap to Rob, lost the battle for that position, and lost the position to John as well. So yeah, I was catching them quite quickly actually in the second stint. But you know, I as usual, I just pushed a little bit too hard and just caught the wall under the arch, and that spun me around. And then that was that. Then I just tried to be clever at the end and get fastest lap, but that didn't work either. So yeah, I should have done better than that, I think. I had really decent practice pace, but for some reason I just couldn't translate it to race pace.
We did suspect that you on the soft tyres try and snatch the fastest lap of the raceway, so that was quite a sneaky move there. But even so, for I'm presuming you're going to be heading to Bathurst to round out the season. If not, then we'll discard it. But even so, if you are heading to Bathurst, obviously a circuit which is daunting in itself. But what are you expecting from yourself and from the car when you head to Mount Panorama?
It's been a bit of a bogey track for me, to be honest. Best result where I've had is a 3rd place, I think. When Toby took me out, but we'll we'll leave that one. I'm going to be there, but it's going to be difficult for us in the Sierras because the skyline's just so quick, and that's definitely going to be a skyline track. So I think I'll be lucky to be in the top 5. In all honesty, I'll just have to try and make no mistakes, pick up any advantage I can from any mistakes other people make. But yeah, it's going to be a difficult one, I think.
Well, we wish you all the best of luck, and of course you have managed to secure at least one race victory this season, so fingers crossed you can end the season on a high, but even so, good job for a top 5 finish, and hopefully more of the same, and possibly even more for Bathurst.
Thanks very much.
And Ryan, I think I was going to
go a bit left field now. I'm going to speak to Łukasz Demon.
Yes, okay.
We don't get to speak to Łukasz too much. If he's actually, he's there, fantastic. Łukasz, we don't get to speak to you too much and your thoughts on racing in the TPS. Obviously, this season has been a bit of a struggle for yourself, but you picked up plenty of points today.
Yeah, it was a salvage race of sorts because I was just potting about in the back of the field and picking up the places when people crashed. Initially, I wasn't the slowest sixer, but then it went downhill when I spun twice into the I don't know the number of the corner, the one with the hard braking, the left hand.
But I think turn 4 that is then, yeah. Difficult one.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of the season obviously been a bit of a struggle for yourself as well. I mean, which has been the most enjoyable race for you? I mean, if you enjoyed driving the 635, you've always driven that 635 and that livery. You're very fond of it. Have you become less fond of it this season or more fond of it? Actually,
more. Initially, I was having really a lot of trouble, but I think it was in Vitus Park when something clicked and the car felt really much better. And right now, I'm enjoying myself, even though I'm not getting the results I would like to have. But I'm qualifying with some overhead right now, so it's better than it was early on in the season. So,
well, enjoying yourself is the first thing that needs to be on the top of the list. So, excellent. And obviously, you go to Bathurst now. That car's not too bad for Bathurst as well. So I expect to see at least a top 5 for you, Łukasz. No, I'm kidding.
Working on it already.
Yeah, I'm sure actually you can do really well there. So and hopefully we'll see you in the Winter Series also as well, in one of those, in either Super Tourers or the Carrera Cup. And we talked about that earlier in the broadcast. And one last interview quickly as well, because I wanted to get quickly his thoughts. There's a few drivers out there who are in very heavy, powerful cars at this track. Absolute nightmare. But one of them was Reese Gardner in that Holden Commodore. How was it wrestling that big Holden around this track for 63 laps, Reese?
Absolutely tired inducing. I can't even talk right now. My God. I mean, I always knew that it was going to be hard, this race, because the Holden is a power car, as you say, and it's more suited to the tracks with the super long straights. And driving a Holden around this bloody track is like trying to drive a muscle car around Monaco, pretty much. So it was always going to be a challenge. So I guess I was happy with 14th in qualifying. I couldn't have done much better than that.
It's a very good effort.
Thank you very much, considering the circumstances. But then I got turned around at turn 1 on lap 1, and I figured that all was lost. But then I just knuckled down, and the tunnel vision set in, and I don't think
I will finish this race.
Yeah, but honestly, Ryan, I don't think I've ever driven that hard in sim racing ever. I went completely above and beyond anything else I've ever done in this race, and I managed to recover to finish 10th. So
you did a fantastic
my
result
goodness.
in there. Yeah.
Thank you very
if
much.
you hadn't been spun at turn 1 as well, it
Yeah,
would have been
I know.
amazing. Yeah. We also we got a question for you as well. In the broadcast, we were talking about in Australia, and Enderman was being a gentleman, and we were thinking that Enderman's been in Australia, and he can't have learned to be a gentleman in Australia because gentlemen don't exist in Australia. Is this correct?
I have no idea.
We thought maybe it was a bit pommy to be a gentleman.
A gentleman? Well, Australia is like an extension of Britain in many ways culturally, so I suppose there are gentlemen in Australia.
Oh, there are gentlemen in Australia. There we go, Scott. That's that mystery solved.
Ah,
there
there
are
we
gentlemen in
go.
Australia. We're not just a sim racing society. We answer the obscure questions as well. Obscure questions that nobody's ever asked. But still, never mind. Thank you very much, Reese, for
No
a
problem.
race report and the answer of that. And well done
Thank you
with
very
the results
much.
as well. And good luck at Bathurst. I'm sure you're looking forward to stretching those Holden legs at that Conrod Straight as well. So thank you to all the drivers for those interviews. Thank you to Scott for joining me today. What an absolutely, I'll use the word flabbergasting, but it really is. I can't think of any word to describe it. End to that race. Absolutely incredible. Now, in 2 weeks' time, we go to Bathurst. It's a 33-point gap for Adrian Holm. He just needs to finish in the top 9. It seems like it's a done deal, but you've seen what's happened today. Anything could happen at Bathurst, so make sure you watch that. We might not be broadcasting because apparently the broadcast link isn't working, and you're watching this on YouTube right now. So you might have to wait until YouTube appears. But in 2 weeks' time, we are actually technically live at 8 o'clock. In 2 weeks on the 15th of October for Bathurst. It's a 250-kilometre race, so we'll really get stuck into that one. Get yourself some popcorn. We'll have Keith here, we'll have Scott, and I'll have myself. We'll have a 3-man team for that. So thank you for watching, and everybody, take care.